gone fishing out where peace has never died. I'm a-wishing all the world was by his side. Then our guns we'd throw away, grab a fishing pole and say, gone fishing. Instead, it's just a-wishing, better just a-wishing, gone fishing.
Welcome to the new Northwest Outdoors, and new is a key word because we are doing things a little bit different. At one time we did nothing but hunting, fishing, things of that nature, and Rick and I got talking one day, and Rick says, why don't we show the people what's available all over the Northwest? Not forgetting bird hunting and fishing, of course, but to add to. And we've tried that, and it's been very successful. I'm very happy with it. We did bungee cord jumping up in British Columbia. We have done the Prosser Balloon Rally, all kinds of things, but not forsaking fishing. Next week, I believe, I remember right, is a fishing show coming up. But the fact is there's so much to do around here. Why not talk about it? Now, that brings us up to the point I was going to make anyhow is today we go down to Kyle's Gun Shack and talk to Rick Garcia. Now, we heard there was a little slightly different bit of training going on down in Kyle's, and I thought, hey, this is something that we should show the viewers. Thought-provoking, perhaps, something you'd like to see. Sound like a good idea to us, so we went down. So we will be back down at Kyle's Gun Shack with Rick Garcia right after, now promise you're going to do this, right after you pay attention to the people that underwrite Northwest Outdoors.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors with Wally Pease is made possible by grants from Bagley's Silver Thread, the line for serious fisher folk. Smelly Jelly from the Catcher Company, try a scent fish like. Mardon Resort by O'Sullivan Dam in central Washington, and by Manuel Painting Company, interior as well as exterior painting.
The concealed weapons permit, and there's a lot of people that aren't going to like this, but that's the way life goes, were once procured by people who were in, say, a PI or someone like that, or someone who carried huge amounts of cash. Now a lot of people are getting these things for one reason and one reason only, to protect themselves.
That's right.
And now to me, someone with a concealed weapons permit, a firearm, and no idea of how to use it is much more dangerous than anything I can think of.
I couldn't agree more with you.
Okay, how about women now? You were telling me that you get, recently the women have been applying.
We get probably in classes, we probably do 80-85% women in our basic firearms course or basic firearms introduction course. I would say that at least 80-85% are women who are first-time owners and first-time shooters.
Traditionally, men operate the firearms and the women don't. Do you have a problem? Are some people just a little bit uptight about this?
No, I don't think so. Really, I think that women are becoming more aware that you know, in order to protect themselves, or in order to at least afford some type of protection, some type of insurance, that they have at least another option available. They're having to turn to firearms, and they're, of course, getting instruction in those areas so they can at least basically proficient with it. I don't think there's a problem in that area. I don't think there's a controversy really, other than I'm surprised that so many of them are coming out now to do it.
Well, you also mentioned that once they do it, to learn the basic, what would you call it, self-defense or proper handling of it, that they find out that this really isn't a tension-filled activity, that it can actually be relaxing, and you have the range down here that's open just for target shooting, and it can be competitive or it can be non-competitive.
Right.
But it could be very enjoyable.
Sure. We have a beautiful indoor range. One of the things that we find, personally, I find myself, I should say, is that as we give these classes, the ladies that take them, and from all age groups, they first look at it as though it's like a skill saw. You know, it worries them a little bit. I guess maybe the stigma of being a man's tool.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Then once they find out that it's really not that difficult to master with the proper instruction, they come to enjoy it. And then they find out that it's as mentally time-consuming as it would be playing cards or bowling or anything else. It's a sport. And I think they find that they enjoy getting out there and concentrating hard on using the weapon and hitting the target, that they find that it's relaxing, that it's taking their mind off of everything else for a while. And it is a relaxing sport. It's a demanding sport because it's about 90%, maybe 80% mental.
Okay, now, women seem to pick up on this sort of thing a whole lot faster than men do.
Yeah, that seems to be something that we men have been hiding for a long time.
I guess so, yeah.
They're very, very sharp. They learn very quickly. And a lot of it is because they don't have any of the bad habits to begin with. And so when you first get them, you get them completely open-minded about it, and they follow directions right to the T, and they learn very fast.
Well, their hand-eye coordination
extremely
wild.
excellent. They have great eye-hand coordination, and they have a very good what I like to call hard mental line. In other words, they adapt real well to coaching themselves in their mind. You know, a coach always helps you. And when you get to the point where you start coaching yourself along with your shooting, it's like having that person there helping you. And it works really well. And it's a process that we teach to them.
But I think you have an added responsibility when you're dealing with someone like this, because you are not going to take a 5-foot, 120-pound woman and hand her a Smith & Wesson 44 mag and say, "Oh, that's a gun for you."
No, we try to use kind of a physical stature type. You know, what would fit their hands, how their arm strength is. You know, we look at all those things. You know, holding a pound or half a pound or pound and a half a gun out in front of you for any length of time can get a little bit tiresome. So we try to work something to where it's comfortable for them, and the recoil is not too great, but sufficient for what they want, their purpose, what they want to do with it.
Now, sometime do you say start a woman out, and I'm just picking figures out there, say with a 32 or 22 even,
yeah,
and work up to a 38, and not just a woman, any neophyte. Do you start them out with a smaller caliber, or do you kind of talk to them and kind of figure what they can need, what they can handle?
Well, we usually start them out with a caliber that we figure is sufficient for the reason they're usually there, which is, you know, eventually I want this for home protection. So we try to start them out with a caliber that's realistic. You know, we don't give them a placebo type. Here, use a 22. You know, although 22s could be considered a home defense weapon, but we get realistic with them, and we tell them that, you know, they want to get into this class of weapon and roughly this weight, and they tell us what they want it for, whether it's for travel or carry, or whether it's just for home use or for sporting use, and then we try to match it up with them and give them what we think would work for them, and from there they get a pretty good feel themselves after that, and they can kind of move up or move down as they wish.
Do you ever, when you're talking to them, we'll say this woman has a 38, and she says, "Boy, I kind of like that 9mm," and you go out and work her through that, and you, being the instructor, notice that this is not the weapon for her. She is much more proficient with the 38. Does this happen occasionally?
Yeah, a lot of times it does happen. And a lot of times it's not really so much the caliber as much as the ammunition used. And that's some of the things that we explain to them, is the difference in ammunition. Now, Kyle's has a very large selection of firearms that they can rent to try. Mm-hmm. It's an extremely good program, especially for a person that's just learning how to shoot and wants to try all the calibers without having to go out and spend that kind of money to buy the calibers, essentially the guns. It's an excellent program. As far as them going over their heads or picking up something more than what they really want to, you know, get involved with, most of the time we can usually look at it and say, hey, you know, why don't you try this load if you want to try this caliber? Because sometimes we can get them into the caliber that they have their mindset on, and at the same time get them into a load that works soft enough for them to practice with, yet when they have to use it for service use, the ammunition is available, and they can try that also.
Do you actually let them fire these different loads? If one is just a little bit too much of a recoil, try a smaller load, but yet one that will still be useful for the purpose she is wanting to learn how to fire anyhow.
What we usually do is for an example, taking your 38, we would start them off with a very mild wad cutter, a target load that would be extremely accurate and very soft shooting. And there they would get the mechanics and the basics down. If they wish to find out what it would take to work a defense load, then we would introduce them to that. They'd have a chance to try that. We also give them demonstrations. We show them the differences behind firing service, what we call a service load, a full strength load. And most of the time they're very perceptive to, gee, that's a lot more than I probably need. And they'll find a happy medium, and they always do, it seems like. We never have anybody walking out of here with the biggest and baddest thing they can find. They always find that happy medium. Well, that doesn't just happen with ammunition. It happens with the size of the weapon as well as the quality of the weapon. There's a lot of variables involved in picking a self-defense weapon. You get what you pay for. It's like an insurance package. If you have a bad or a poor policy, when the time comes, the dividend is going to be very minor or very poor.
I think the one thing worse than having your home undefended is being gone and having someone there who has a handgun and who doesn't know the first thing about using it.
Yeah, well, it's very true. It's some people buy them, I think, and usually these people usually buy the cheapest ones, and it's more of a placebo. They're hoping that the time will never come, but they want some measure of comfort, and that measure of comfort is this placebo handgun. I bought this. It's a little cast iron 22 or 25. It's supposed to work, and it should work. And most of the time, they probably do work, except when you need them to work.
Right. If someone comes in and they are interested in protection, self-protection,
right,
and they have no trouble with the bullseye target,
right,
and then they balk a little bit at the personal target, what do you do? Here you've got a person that wants a handgun for a particular reason, but no one looks like a target either, so you're kind of between a rock and a hard place, aren't you?
Yeah, that happens. Usually what happens is that our basic level courses, we don't really address a lot of the what we would term as gun sight on person. We don't really address that. What we do is on our basic level, we address the mental ideas and the philosophies behind shooting correctly and learning to shoot correctly, both physiologically as well as psychologically. When we get into those other areas, we're talking about self-protection classes, and those are classes that are about twice as long. They're an 8-hour class, and those classes are more designed to give the individual some idea of when, of how to avoid, how to de-escalate a situation, how to, let's say, correctly use the firearm at night from a closed room position, what type of a firearm they should have for that type of encounter, maybe the extra things, like what type of sights. At night you don't have any sights. There are special sights developed for just that purpose, and they work extremely well. But they're not aware of these things. So we give them some of the high-tech information they need to turn that weapon into what they want that will work day and night, and be reliable. And reliability is number one. We also get into the other areas of post-shooting, what could happen. We get into some of the law involved in justifiable homicide. We discuss the RCW with them.
What now?
RCW, which is the laws that prevail in guiding the state of Washington and people involved in this. We try to give them as much information as possible.
But if push comes to
But
shove?
if push comes to shove, they've only got a couple of split seconds to make a decision as to what they're going to have to do, and they need the information within their mind in order to deliberate and make those decisions in those split-second situations. You know, it has to be something that they already know. With the women, you can start at one point, go from A, B, and C, and they'll sit there and they gather it all in just as you present it. So it's not quite as difficult to teach protection classes to women as it is to men. Men have preconceived ideas about how they should react. And granted, I think that's the way we are. We have a preconceived idea of how we're going to act if we have that encounter of the worst kind.
Yeah, but unfortunately, a lot of this is not what actually happens either. And
Not
this
at
is
all.
why a course, I think, is very important. Not just for neophyte women, but I mean for everyone. Everyone should take, if nothing else, a refresher course from time to time.
Oh, absolutely. People don't realize, I think, a lot of times it seems to be kind of a cut and dry thing about how you're going to react before, during, and after a shooting. And it could be that's the farthest thing from the truth.
Okay, now say I come in, I have a weapon that suits me, I know nothing about it, and I say, Rick, I would like to learn what I need to know, maybe more than I need to know, about how to treat this weapon, how to handle it. How long would it take, I mean, in a class setting, just roughly?
Well, in class settings, it would probably take someplace, realistically, it would probably take someplace to in about 8 hours for the basics all the way through. That would include care, that would include munitions, that would include the nomenclature, the exterior nomenclature, not the interior, but the exterior nomenclature of the weapon, grip, sighting, all the things that you need to know on a basic level and get out and actually do it enough to where you become familiar with it. It would probably take at least 8 hours. But for the basic introduction to just the firearm, it only takes about 4 hours.
Okay, but now is this like an hour a night, 2 hours a night?
No, it's usually a 4-hour set.
4 hours
Yeah,
set.
and then we do an 8-hour set. If we do any of the lengthy programs or any of the lengthy training programs, they're usually 8-hour sets. And the protection programs are usually run on an 8-hour set. We always go at least 8 hours at a minimum on the protection end.
Oh, that's 8 hours straight in a row?
Straight in a row, right. They come here, they're told when they come in the morning, or before they come, they'll be here all day, they'll get breaks, they'll have lunch as well as range time back and forth to break up a lot of the classroom time. And we go over a lot of Q&A with them, a lot of questions and answers. And a lot of the class has to do with Q&A. And we take any question that they can throw at us. If we don't have it then, we have to mail it to them. We'll get the question back to them answered.
I noticed you all had, not all, you're pretty close there, but you've got 2 revolvers, a couple of automatics. You've got, what do you got there, 9mm?
45.
45, and you got 22, and you got 38. Okay, why did you choose these particular weapons?
I started out with this 22 Beretta, and it's a great little handgun. It's very light, very compact. You can carry it in your purse. The problem with it is you have to remember a lot of different things in order to shoot it. And I figured that in a situation where I needed this gun, I didn't want to have to think about it. And I chose to switch from that to go and went to a 38 revolver because you simply put the bullets in and pull the trigger and you don't worry about anything else.
And how about you with the big old 45?
Well, mine gets just a little more complicated. When I started shooting, when I took the class the first time with Rick, I knew that I was going to make a purchase of a gun. I didn't know what type of gun I was going to purchase, but I knew that I was going to make a purchase. Rick started me out using a 38, and I really liked that, and he kind of snuck in a 45 on me. And it didn't see any difference in the recoil with me. And I wanted to start shooting more on a competition level. And there's a minor or a major competition level that you can go in on, and I thought that I would go for a major. So that's why I got my gun. It's not the most concealed weapon. It's quite large, as you can see. But it gets the job done.
I'm sure of that.
Yeah, it's not one of those ones where you're going to be carrying it around like the little 22 and have it concealed.
Yeah, this is
exactly what I wanted. I wanted a concealed weapon.
And you?
I shoot the 9mm, the automatic. I find it's a lot easier on me than a revolver, and I would just prefer that. I think it's fun to shoot. It's easy to shoot.
Okay, why did you decide to take a class? Had any of you people shot before?
No.
No.
Not a handgun.
Okay, why?
Well, I wanted to take the class because I wanted to buy the gun, and if I was going to have the gun, I wanted an expert to teach me how to handle it.
Exactly.
Pretty much the story of it?
Yeah.
Now,
Safety, to know what you're doing.
Yeah, you
Right.
bet.
Otherwise, you
You
just...
how
Well,
far
you're
along are
spending
you in the course?
How far along?
Are you through with the course?
Yeah,
Or you're
it's-
just
Yeah, we're through, yeah.
practicing
You're
now?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, this is a tricky question, and don't answer if you don't want to. If you were alone someplace and you found the need to utilize your handgun, could you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a mother. I have kids, and there's no doubt in my mind I could use it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Rick's
Up
very...
until buying the gun, I would have said no. But I have gotten to the point that I did want a gun, and yes, if it was necessary, I would use it. Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. I think anybody that doesn't know anything about a gun would be real reluctant at first. You know, it would be, it's one thing to own a gun. It's another thing to, when you don't know anything about its operation or how to handle it or what the recoil is going to be or what the end results are going to be in a gun, you do hesitate. You may own the thing, and if you ask somebody that question that hadn't taken a class, they may not give you the exact answers we did. The class definitely has an end result of being honest and saying and making a bottom line statement of, yes, I can, yes, I would use the gun.
Okay, now Rick, I think, has these classes every Sunday. All I have to do is call Kyle's, and I think you get them lined up. But you don't get away from him just from talking to him. From what he sounds like the kind of guy that you don't get away from until you are expert with that weapon, that you can feel comfortable with it.
Most definitely. He's very thorough in his classes. And I know that Rick's open any time that you can call him if you have a question after you've taken the class and say, you know, look, I wanted to go out and shoot, whatever the case may be, he'd definitely answer your question or make time to meet with you, come down here to Kyle's and show you exactly what you're wanting to know. He's very open for that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the way things were down there. You know, and I'm not getting off the track here. I'm going to lead this someplace, but see, I had a real neat old grandfather. I think the kind you don't have anymore. I mean, I've tried, but my wife says, all right, cut that out. But he was just fraught with ideas. He told me things like, never play poker with a guy that's got more than 2 gold front teeth. Don't eat at a place called Mom's. He also told me 3 things that you shouldn't do after you're married. First one, I forget that one. Yeah, I can't remember that, so it's not important. Second one, don't teach your wife to drive. Somehow it just, trust me, I broke that rule, and it does not make for good relations around the house. The third one was, don't teach your wife to shoot. And I guess that's kind of self-explanatory. So along those lines, after we got through talking to Rick down at Kyle's, I went home, talked to Darla, I said, he's giving a class on Sunday. Why don't you go take it? So she called up, and there was room, so she went down there. And now she hadn't shot before. And he gave her a Lady Smith. It was a lady size 38. And the first target, it was a 25-yard target, your basic target, and she hit it a couple times, you know, it wasn't too bad. And then Rick came around and he said, you know, when you're shooting, you're going like this and you pull a trigger, you pull the barrel down. And he said, think about that. So the next target, she thought about it, and about most of the time she'd pull the front end of the gun down. So Rick came along and he put all empty shells in there except one. And she went click, and it went down, and he said, now see, it's going down, and pretty soon she's click, bang, right smack through the middle of the bullseye. So make a long story short, she started out almost hitting the target. Her last target, out of 12 shots, she had 11 of them right in the black of the bullseye and one a little bit below it. So, hey, you think that doesn't pay off? Okay, you think it doesn't pay off? Take a look at this. Now, these are the actual targets that these ladies were shooting at. I guess shooting at isn't exactly the right way to look at it, because they were shooting at and hitting. So, great idea if you give it some thought. You have a phone number here. You can call down at Kyle's, right here in Yakima. Wherever you are, I'm sure they have, or they should have, something like this along those lines. But in Yakima, call this number and see if you can get into one of Rick Garcia's shooting classes, and think you'll like it. Okay, now for something totally, entirely different. We have the Mycall mini heaters. They come in a number of sizes. All they are is little bags of something with something in chemicals in, makes it very warm. They come in bigger sizes. These are great. We use them a lot of times. What we use them for is putting on the batteries of our camera. When I take my 35 millimeters, got a battery in it, bang, I heat one, put it in there, no problem. We're running out of time, so let me just dig in the Kids Club drawing here and find a card that is Henrik Pelliser, age 12, of 121 Old Cowiche Road, Cowiche, Washington. We had a winner in Cowiche not too long ago. You get all this good stuff. And I'm sorry, but I am out of here. We have to go. We get a chance to get out. You take a kid fishing, would you? Hey kids, why not get in on the Kids Club of Northwest Outdoors? Very simple. You just send a 3x5 card, preferably a postcard, to Kids Club, Northwest Outdoors, 1105 South 15th Avenue, Yakima, Washington, 98902. And then on the other side, you put down your name, address, including the zip code, age, phone number, and you are automatically entered in our Kids Club.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors with Wally Pease is made possible by grants from Bagley's Silver Thread, the line for serious fisherfolk. Smelly Jelly from the Catcher Company, try a scent fish like. Mardon Resort by O'Sullivan Dam in central Washington. And by Manuel Painting Company, interior as well as exterior painting.
Stay tuned for the nightly business report coming up next here on 47.
Gone fishing, instead it's just a wishing, better just a wishing. Gone fishing, he's gone fishing, gone fishing, better just a wishing, gone fishing.